Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. It's been a while. I haven't posted one in a little bit and I haven't recorded one in a little bit, but I'm excited to come back with a few of my friends today, and I'm really excited to have them here, and I'm glad they got to take the time out. But today we have Paige's Turns. How you guys doing today, guys?
Doing all right.
We're chilling.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
Absolutely, man. I think you guys got done just practicing now, right?
Yeah, no, actually, so we had back talk practice, and he's helping me out with that. So, yeah. he's playing bass with it. Yeah, he's like unofficially, part, but he's just helping us out, play shows and stuff like that.
It's got to be kind of official. You're in the music video.
Yeah. I'm in all the promos and stuff now. They want me to be official.
Yeah. We want him, but at the same time, it's like he's a pop punk boy. And so, and that's why, Paige's appeals more to him, because that's his thing, obviously. And, I don't want to pressure him to be like, just be in this project with me, too, you know? But he's helping me out as much as possible. He's like, any show y'all do or anything, you need musically, I'm here for you. So until we find a bassist that fills that position, he's just riding the wave for me. And we already have chemistry because we do Pages together.
Yeah.
And so it's working out really well.
So it works out, to help. And I bet it's fun. It's a different change of pace, definitely.
Yeah, it's a big change of pace.
Definitely. I mean, if you're talking about from Pages, that's a big.
He's a very soft boy, and then we just get really aggressive, and so he's just like, okay, I got to.
Well, we had Humanican. That was just a while ago.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
You got some experience there.
Yeah. That's why I didn't hesitate to have him on board.
Yeah.
You don't have to eat it.
Oh, do I know? I don't know. Just have it here.
He's like, where's the mic?
Yeah, he's like.
I get into vocal mode where I just want to have it.
That's
just cup it for the
whole time. Yeah.
Just be cupping it like this. But yeah, Paige's Turn you guys have been doing for quite a while now.
A couple years now, yeah. We are trying to find our stride in just really having the time, because it started out just side project, us chilling,
Mm-hmm.
He was still in Humanican at the time, and I was really kind of focused on back talk, and I was still doing school at the time, and so we didn't want to spread ourselves too thin.
Yeah.
So we just were like, we'll do it when we do it. We have fun doing it, and just we'll take the time whenever we can when we get it. And now that we kind of do the same thing work wise, we understand our schedules and stuff, so we talk to each other all day, all the time.
Yeah.
And so we have grown in our friendship, and also musically we've just grown together. And so now we're trying to find our stride in writing more and kind of taking this a little bit bigger.
So now you're trying to dedicate a little bit more focus to it. Where before it was kind of when you had the time to do it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, out of that free time, you guys came up with an entire project, this entire EP.
We
just
did.
Little free moments and stuff.
Yeah. Like I said before, and he can speak on this, we kind of just clicked really well together, because I would show up to Humanican practices. I was an unofficial member. I hung out with them all the time.
Yeah.
And so he would just, he's always, like I said, he's a soft boy. He picked up an acoustic, and I just immediately, we started vibing together. And
yeah, we wrote most of those songs on the first EP just in 5 minutes each, maybe.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I would play something, and he'd be like, oh, that works, and then he'd sing something, and then I'd harmonize it, and we're like, okay, there's a song.
Yeah.
And
I'd be like,
flesh it out over an
Stop
hour.
there.
Stop for a second, play that part again, stop, and then 10 minutes later we have a song, and we just did that 4 or 5 times, and we're like, all right, we're ready.
So there you go, EP.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really enjoy about Paige's Turn, the harmonies, but the separate back and forth voices between you guys is one of my favorite parts of that. I'm really sad that I didn't get to actually watch you at Chill Sounds, because I was running the parking lot.
Right. Yeah.
And I was I could hear them damn it, they're playing right now.
It's okay. We played relatively early, and we were thankful for everyone that did manage to catch it or hear it or whatever. And
Yeah, there was a fair amount of people.
there was still a fair amount of people, and we got good reception from everyone that did hear it, and they really enjoyed it. And then obviously the night just picked up from there. It was it was Chill Sounds and Breakdowns emulated the whole time, and so we just rode that wave. We were thankful for it to be there.
Yeah, we really drew in the whole crowd. We need a little more. No.
No, but we were thankful to be there. It just
was fun.
We started it off pretty much, and then it just took off from there. And we had people, even the few people that saw us throughout the day, just telling us hey, you guys did a great job. You have a wonderful voice. You guys pair really well together. So,
Yeah, I feel like this project has let you kind of like highlight that a little bit more because I mean in Backtalk you kind of dabble in like doing some singing and stuff like that, but this one it's like, oh, I get to
this is all me exposed.
Yeah,
like,
you're all singing.
Can't really hide behind anything.
Yeah.
Really much. So yeah.
Which is how is it, I guess, changing to like writing just like singing stuff instead of having to worry about like, oh, I need to write like a screaming part to it with your rhythms and like and melodies and stuff like that.
He's actually keeping me grounded with that as we're going forward because it's just like, okay, obviously music is heading in a different direction. You hear heavier bands experimenting with like that pop sound and like that kind of throwback 80s retro sound and even pulling on new metal influences. And so I'm trying to gear back screaming anyways so I can focus on more melodic stuff.
Yeah.
But then trying to shift that into, I guess I access a different part of myself when I go to that. So it's not, I don't have to worry about like vocal technique as much because I'm already kind of in that zone. Like it's divided into two worlds essentially, and I just visit each whenever I'm going to writing for one another,
So it's not really a big switch into it because like when you're writing that, you're already in that kind of like headspace.
It's not as difficult to write. It's more just getting in the writing headspace.
Yeah.
For it, yeah. So once I'm in that headspace for it, it's like, okay, switch. I'm in, it's essentially like I'm in chill sounds mode now, and now I'm in breakdowns mode, and then just kind of moving from the different rooms or different.
So just getting into that mode,
Getting
just like
into that mode, yeah.
being able to flip. But once the switch is flipped, then you're like, oh, I'm good. I can completely
yeah.
focus on this.
The thing with Backtalk is I get really kind of, I don't want to say I get into a dark place, but I kind of touch into that sort of darker mentality, the more aggressive stuff. And so I need a buffer. I can't really do like pages immediately because I'm in that zone.
Yeah.
And I don't speak the same way. I don't think the same way. My brain's not on that same track. And then I have to shift it to kind of accommodate what pages is, which is like sad, and can be dark, but in a different way, like joyful and, there's a different emotional landscape that I kind of have to.
I mean, it definitely is definitely a big shift in like the aggressiveness. You know what I mean? Like, because that's one thing. Like, even if you're not completely writing a song to be aggressive, but if you're writing anything heavy that has there will be an aggressive tone to it, no matter what you do. Even if the lyrics aren't like say anything aggressive, like it will tap into like an aggressive tone no matter what. Like you're screaming it. You know what I mean? Like it's like forever. Like the people that didn't know like what I played. Like I had a lady I think that told my mom one time, it's like, oh, like. They're screaming like about the devil and stuff like that. I'm like, no, like I'm screaming about being sad. My dad left me. Like, like that's what I'm screaming about. Right. But anything that you're obviously screaming, it's because like that emotion gets tipped into that aggressive, whatever it is. Like you're sad, you're mad, anything. Exactly, you have to push that. So it would be a completely different headspace to write for pages. But I think you do it well. I think you're able to like manage it and switching back and forth.
Thank you.
Between that, especially, and now you're getting both kind of projects up and going, like
right?
Because
you just trying to keep momentum for both things.
Because you guys dropped the Yeah,
and it helps again having him kind of in Backtalk, now because then we can kind of gear our energy towards Backtalk when we need to, and then it's like, all right, he's doing that same flip switch mind space thing with me, just not completely because like obviously Backtalk I'm more involved in it. Whereas Pages were more of a 50-50 thing.
Yeah.
But, he's on that train with me now with the shifting, and so we can do that a bit easier because he knows, what I'm doing here and then going and doing there.
It's easier for him to understand, like, where the switch is coming from because you're both having to, be part of it. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Be part of both, so it helps both. So in Pages, how do you normally, like, approach writing? You guys both do together, so it's only two of you. So, I mean, like, is it you guys both individually, right? Because you both play guitar, like.
Right.
Lately it's kind of been we're trying to put more thought in than we were just like sitting down and like, okay, here's a song in 5 minutes. So lately we've been trying to do more of that, but usually it'll be more like I'll do a lot of the guitar work and he'll edit that, and he'll do a lot of the vocal work, and I'll edit that. Okay. It's kind of that's kind of like the best
yin
way.
Yang. It's really yin yang. Like how there's like a little bit of the yang and the yin, and then but they have their own two separate circles or parts of the circle. It's exactly how it is really, because he mostly comes up with a lot of the guitar work. He's very chordy, very singer-songwriter structurally guitar, whereas my guitar playing is very intense and riffy.
Yeah.
And so I allow him to focus on that stuff, and then I'll usually come in with like a lead, melody sort of thing over it. But like structurally at the bass line, we still kind of do that thing where when we started, where he'll just sit down with a riff, and I'll say, "Hey, play that again." And he'll just go through a progression, and I'll be like, "Hey, play that again." Okay, stop. And then we'll do it. We'll just get the skeleton of something, and then now, because we're, like you said, putting more thought into it, we will take out the parts we don't need. We'll expand on it and trying to make it bigger than we were before. So
basically, before I would stay at like the skeleton and be like, "Oh, that's good enough." You know what I mean? Let's ride off of that. And now it's kind of like, let's hammer out like the kinks, like, and because you realize like that once you go back and take like, third, fourth, fifth looks and run throughs and stuff, it's like, oh, this goes with it, but it doesn't necessarily need this, or be like, oh, this is good, but it's missing something, kind of thing, which you don't. When you're trying to just like write songs and put songs out, you kind of tend to miss those like opportunities. Yeah. Which, like I said, it's just different types of writing. It's just you come to discover, like, especially like writing with other people, and like that's got to be the cool thing, because like in Backtalk you get to write with a whole bunch of different guys. And here it's just two of y'all, so it's a different writing structure, which just helps build both of those projects together, because you'll take back stuff that you learn from Pages into Backtalk and Backtalk into here.
Exactly. No, he was trying to get me to listen to this new this Wildlife album, so I finally listened to it last night, and it's beautiful. It's soft. And it just like melts your heart, kind of thing. And I was listening to that on the way to Backtalk practice.
Oh yeah.
And I like obviously have to get into that heavy mentality and shift and stuff, but I can still bring, like you said, those elements of what made that good and what made that work into Backtalk to kind of create this new thing,
especially melodically.
Exactly.
Lately.
Yeah. I've come to realize that like very, I don't know, aggressively, that I listen to so much more, like when I was writing for Under Oblivion, like more outside of metal that I would bring into like it was like mostly non-metal that I was listening to influence like everything. I was like, everything was influencing me, and I'm like, wow, like, and I took it like, I was like, wow, I'm not really listening to anything metal to help me but in turn makes for a more interesting like take on like metal music, instead of me trying to copy or emulate anything I'm listening to. It's like, oh, what if this like type of music, this thing I heard in a pop song or in like a Spanish song or something like that, what if that was in here? And like that with rhythms and stuff like that. A lot of my rhythms came from a lot of hip hop music when I was doing my like cadences and stuff. And I'm like, just bring them over here. I was like, that's gonna make it interesting, kind of thing.
Hip hop and blues are great to mix with.
Metal. I was listening to a lot of hip hop when we wrote this like second Backtalk EP, and so it's things like that where, like you said, I will listen to metal when new releases come out to see what people are doing nowadays, like modern metal and stuff like that. So you are aware of what's out there. But for the most part, I try to stay away from listening to a lot of metal because I don't want to write someone else's song. Like, I don't want to write a sequel song to someone else's single, and sound exactly like them. And not taking away from what they're doing, but also they're doing their thing, let them do it. You rather do your own thing, listen to pop, listen to rap, listen, R&B and stuff, so that when you do your metal thing, you're approaching it from a different perspective.
And that's exactly how they do it. You know what I mean? Like when you listen to like what artists they're listening to, it's always like these, things that you wouldn't normally associate. Especially, I mean, maybe I think when I was like a lot younger in writing, I was like, no, these people listen to all these bands around them, and I'm like, oh no, they're listening to such like individualistic stuff themselves that is so far off from what they do, because and it makes their music better because they're pulling influences from places where people wouldn't normally like assume you're pulling, and that's what I think normally would catch my attention, like with different bands, like I don't know some examples, but I remember when I first heard what's that band called? Treasures. And they added the saxophone. Yes.
They're so neat.
I was like,
so
what?
Cool.
And it wasn't like a cheesy saxophone. It's well played,
really
like well placed. And
really
I'm like,
placed,
oh, like they actually can play this instrument, like, and it's actually tastefully placed in the music. I'm like, that's so wild. Like that someone else was like, hey, they play the sax. Like, you want to be in this band? Like, I was like, it's out of nowhere.
I remember whenever I first heard them, someone had sent them to me, and I was like, oh. That's cool because he knows I love saxophone. I was like, I want to learn how to play piano and saxophone. They're like, okay.
Really?
Yeah. I'm trying to just keep adding instruments to my repertoire, and I heard that, and I was like, oh, that makes me want to learn saxophone so badly. It's so well placed.
But yeah, that's normally, I think lately the stuff in metal that catches my attention is anything with a weird like twist in it or something that like is a weird change. I think another band I was a really big fan of was like that band Alaska. That I don't know if you heard.
Alaska.
Yeah, so they had a lot of like R&B influence in that. I mean, they changed now because they lost the vocalist or whatever. But another thing, I was like, that's one thing that I love. Anything like singing and melodic R&B stuff. So when they added into that, that's kind of what sold me on the fact of like trying to have a band. It was like I love that combination. That it just worked for me. So that's normally what I look into. I look into for stuff that like what sounds different than the normal stuff, because you're like you were saying, you know, a lot of like metal bands and stuff like that are trying to go like a more pop route like these days, and you hear it a lot, and it's there's definitely nothing bad to it, because the more I listen to, I look at what I listen to like daily, and I'm like, all this stuff is like catchy stuff, like, you know what I mean? So that's what I assume is pop music, like anything that has like a catchy chorus, anything like that. And I was like, oh, these are the things that I listen to. It's like, it's not a bad thing. It's like, and there's a formula to it. Like, you have to figure out in order for it to, you know, make sense and work. Yeah. Typically, you can write, you know, a song like that, but for it to work, there's a certain thing you gotta
have
you know.
that zing.
Exactly.
And so that's what, you know, we're really trying to bring to the table going forward with this new material is that like zing. Yeah, like we can write songs. We both know we're capable of writing songs, and we mesh well together. It doesn't take us long to write a song, but it's about bringing that zing that we had a little bit of and touched on, I felt like, in the first EP, but we're kind of trying to bring way more to the table with this new material.
So actually like hammering that down and like expanding on it.
Expanding, speaking of expanding, should we tell him?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we're trying to go full band now.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. And so some of this stuff, it's not going to be like...
Got exclusive here, folks. You heard that?
You heard it here.
Page's turn is going full band. Yeah, hold on. Keep talking.
Okay. So, yeah, we're trying to go full band, and the stuff that we recorded, it's not going to be like completely pop punk like all the time. We're going to just hammer it out, but we're trying to expand with like having drums or having like a cajon in the background.
It is still acoustic guitar, by the way.
Okay,
so
so
it's like,
full band's acoustic.
Yeah.
That sounds dope.
Kind of lighter leads with some bass, and you know, and just like bringing it, making it more full.
Indie pop punk country.
Yeah.
That honestly sounds super interesting. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely something that.
There it is.
Best 99 cents I've ever spent.
Full band.
But okay, so you want to keep it still like in an acoustic sense.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So,
And some songs will still be acoustic. Because we want to still keep that element that is making it what it is.
yeah.
But just expanding it, making it a bigger version. Pages 2.0, essentially.
Yeah.
Pages, another book turned.
Yeah.
It's a volume set.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going Encyclopedia Britannica within this
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah.
That's really cool because like you don't hear a lot of acoustic like acts with a bigger sound, which is like the appeal like in bands and stuff like that. That the sound is like huge. That's why like I've seen a lot of like even like non-traditional, I think, acts like when you see like a hip hop act with a full band, like it's super cool to see. But like
It's so fun.
yeah, it's so
really
fun.
It's really
I love
cool.
to see
and it
full
brings
band.
it to life because they're very energetic shows, and really hype type shows. So when there's a full band, it just pops off even more.
Exactly, which I think it's delving more into that round. But that's really cool that you guys are thinking about doing that. Is it just something you guys kind of have been thinking about like lately, or is it something you guys are actively working on, like finding people?
We've been tracking and actively working on it.
Yeah, we
so.
have 2 songs with like a full arrangement. One is just acoustic, 2 full arrangements, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Currently
Recorded. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we don't have
Yeah. We're listening to those after this shit. It's over. We're gonna wrap this up.
So that's a
Sorry, everybody.
We'll be right back. Little like
Elevator
pixelated shit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, a little holding music.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you that's one element already. So you're already changing like what you're doing as far as like progressing and then writing these full arrangements. What about like in writing that new stuff? Do you have a certain like theme you're going for in the music that you like as far as the songs that you're writing for, or is it kind of just like in the moment, like what these specific topics? I guess is there a theme to like the lyrical content? I guess is what I'm going for.
You wanna?
I can't speak on lyrical as much, but it's kind of that same thing where we're trying to we have to like relearn how to write this kind of stuff together because it's we've never really written full band stuff together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's taking a lot of like.
It's
I don't
not
know how
that
to-
instant thing that like I was telling you about where we
Yeah.
would sit down and be like, okay, we have a song now. Like there's got to be more thought put into it because we have to consider our other bandmates now. We have to consider their parts. We have to consider, you know, how is this gonna flow between us all versus just
And like
us
how to
two.
make a song a full band and have, you know, other songs on the same release be in that same vein, theme wise.
To where you can have them on the same record,
the
right?
same record, and they still all flow together.
I don't want to say it's like a challenge. Like it hasn't been a challenge, but it's been different.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been different. We've had to put more thought into it, definitely. But it's been really fun.
Yeah.
It's been fun to hear us and doing what we do, but just get like evolved form. You know.
Yeah.
That's
So-
that must be just a cool feeling. And I
Charmeleon.
love the fact that you guys. The fact that you guys can do all that, like you guys do all your tracking and all your like recording and stuff like that, so you can design that full band like sound with just both of you, and because you can all like, I mean, I know you play guitar, bass, and I know you do drums and guitar. Like, you guys do like pretty much every instrument that you would need in a full band, so you're able to write these parts.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, I can see where it's difficult, where it's like, well, now I have to, instead of just thinking about writing one or two parts, like I got to write all of them. Like, so coming into that. And also, I didn't even take that into account, like the flow of like having, because you still want to have acoustic songs or just like the simple version. Like, oh, the flow of that entire project together is got to like another thing you have to take into effect. Where now, before it was just like, okay, let's write these songs. They're all acoustic in nature, so they're gonna kind of flow with each other regardless. And now it's like, oh, okay, you
now
got another factor.
We've been trying to write them to where they would work if, so say we like, once we have a full band and we're playing shows full band, we're trying to make the songs so that they would work if we had a show where it was just Farhad and I again.
Where you play the full band songs acoustic.
Where we could still play those same songs and not feel like you're really missing like the whole song, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I understand it. So that way they're adaptable, interchangeable. Yeah, to where you can play them in any type of shows, which would in turn like open you guys up to be able to play a variety of like shows. You know what I mean,
Exactly.
and be able to adapt.
It's not limiting us as much as it was before. Like, not to say it was really, because we're still obviously playing these like mixed genre shows where people are playing metal or playing whatever bands and stuff. Sorry, I'm not used to it.
It's kind of
Over
weird.
here,
right?
like directing you how to hold a microphone. You would think.
that's like
strapped to me right here.
like I'm not used to it. It's just the vocalism.
Well, that's when I'm actually like doing the
That's
thing.
true, right?
I'm
Performing.
the one
it.
who never has a mic in my hand. I'm sitting here like.
And he's like,
But
all right,
yeah,
we're getting stands. If you listen to more, I can afford stands. All right.
But yeah, no, it's just been fun, like, because the person, you know, that we have on drums is also another good friend of ours, and he's also recording it, and so it's making that process easier so that we can flesh those ideas out and that we can understand what it is that we need to make this arrangement work with itself and everything else.
Well, that's one of the things that the band DJ's like been playing full band, and for Ryker Hall, he used to do just acoustic sets of all the same songs, and that's what they do now. They have full band arrangements, but then Ryker will still have shows where he'll go and play by himself acoustically, and they're the same songs.
Yeah.
And you still, like you were saying, you don't feel like you're missing the full song, because those songs were acoustic first. They were all complete acoustic, but they adapted into a full band version. So now you have two that you can like enjoy. You know what I mean? Like, and they both.
So they did it
great.
backwards from what
They did
we're
it backwards.
doing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. But for theirs, they've been doing it for a little bit. He's only been playing full band shows this year, and same thing. Like I think the project he's gonna drop is all with a full band, but originally those songs were written without the full band. So you get to kind of experiment with those too.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah.
We've considered looking back on some previous tracks and adding some spice.
Amplifying.
Yeah.
Adding some spice. Yeah.
That would be cool. That would be cool to visit. I'm sure people would like really enjoy hearing a new, like
even
a
if it's
different
just for a
version.
live setting or something. If we were to do that, we've been toying with that idea, and we think it'd be something fun because it's something people are already familiar with. The people that listen to us,
Yeah.
And so it just bring that much more energy and fun to it.
Yeah, especially since those songs are so old now. We look back, I at least look back, and I'm like, there could be a lot more going on here. There's just not really.
I think that's part of the artist's journey is like you look back on your stuff and you're like, I could have done that better. I want to do that better. I want to fix this, or because you grow as a musician.
Yeah.
And it's not that you dislike what you did before, but you see it with a different perspective because you're a different musician essentially than you were when you wrote it.
That's a hard part when you get stuck on stuff. So that's the thing. Like, when do I move on from this song? Like, because if you wanted to, you could spend years on it because you're gonna grow so much and be like, oh, like, no, it could sound better. It could do this. It could do that, and you could spend. So, but there's got to be a point where you're like,
all right,
this is as far as I'm gonna take it.
Sure.
And then you find out stuff. You revisit it years later. And it's like, oh, like if you want to, you can go back and redo it as a different version if you wanted to.
Sure.
But I think being able to put that like final like dot on it and be like, okay, it's done for now. Let's release it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
a difficult thing for some
Yeah,
stuff.
and I think we're at a point right now where we would want to, like, finalize the draft of the page we're on, and then just
Just use your band name as an
did.
analogy.
Yes,
Holy
I
shit!
did.
Where'd that air horn at
get
again?
yes.
Damn, dropping exclusive bars on the podcast.
You're hearing it first time.
But I mean, not only Ryker, but I'm sure you guys are excited as hell to play full band shows with that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I think that's been our biggest struggle right now is just like being an adult and living a life
The
where
worst.
everyone has schedules, and like we're already set in a schedule with Backtalk, so that's not really a big issue. But that's been solidified for years. So now it's essentially trying to figure that out again, but with a different project and a different vibe and stuff, and making sure that it's going to be cohesive going forward, so that everyone's on the same page and it's not just us anymore. So we have to consider everyone's like musical backgrounds and viewpoints and schedules and
Scheduling sucks when you get older.
yeah.
Which schedules, suck hard.
It
Like when
does.
it's the older you get, because you're like, oh, these things have to be done, and it's like, oh, let's find time around it and things like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so that's why him and we still communicate every day. We still have relatively the same schedule, so we see each other often. So we can still lay groundwork for stuff when we need to, or when it's required of us to get in or finish stuff up.
Yeah.
And then we can bring it to them, and we have something already, and then they're just like, pass or fail. We've got something, and so now it's up to y'all to either take it and we run with it, or we scrap it and move forward. But we can at least get some work in when we don't have the means to have everyone available.
Yeah.
Because it's us from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys plan on being still the main driving force as far as writing goes with the project, or do you want to involve like a full band, like everybody's input into it? Because I know you were
Yes
talking
and
about
no.
everyone's music.
Yes and no.
It's
yeah.
like-
I mean, like I'm always open and receptive to ideas. I want people to tell me if my idea sucks more than anything, because I'd rather someone tell me it sucks and scrap it versus no one tells me. And then it does suck still, but I just keep going with it.
You just release suck.
release a suck song.
Yeah.
So I would like differing opinions. I want a devil's advocate. I want people to challenge me and tell me that, like this could work better than this, and this could, because I get some of that in Backtalk and it helps.
Yeah.
And so I have to keep that mindset up. I've worked with other people in a band setting before and working on full band arrangements. So I have that experience. It's just about shifting the mindset and genre and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty stubborn already, so we've kind of been good about keeping each other in check with like critiquing each other's ideas and stuff, but definitely I always think it's better to have more ears and input on something. Maybe not all at the same time, but
It's
too many
writing
cooks.
session or
But
something. Like we're in the studio, there's too many cooks in the kitchen type thing.
Yeah.
But a time and place, like you said, for everyone to kind of review what it is we're doing, give their feedback on stuff, and
And we've already had a lot of that too.
Yeah.
Just starting the process of writing with other people involved, even if they're not necessarily in for a writing session. We could be tracking bass, and he's like, "Oh, I have an idea for this," and we're like, "Oh, that's sick. Do that."
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I've grown as a vocalist, as a musician, over the years that I've just been working with him.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, now we're going to be working with other homies and other musical backgrounds and stuff, how we're going to grow as a unit, as a project, but how I'm also going to grow as an individual, as a musician. So
That's the most
deep as
encouraging part of it all. Like all the writing process is like
Yeah.
the more people you sit in on writing sessions, even if like I said, like one thing you're saying, like you're always hanging out with like Humanica and stuff like that, which must have like influenced the stuff that you've written. Like, but just hanging out with other musicians and other people writing, and people even outside the music genre, and it's like will tell you like, oh, because that's sometimes you're like you just need that super outside perspective, and someone telling you like, oh, like this sounds, I don't know, this sounds. It's just a comment would be like, oh, this sounds weird, and like, oh, why do they find it weird and like nobody else did? Okay, let me figure out what that means. You know what I mean? And it just I've had that help a lot. I've sat in a lot of like DJ does a lot of sessions in here, so I've sat in with like Ryker's new project, which I was like crazy to see like how someone writes like that, and then Dizzy who does like who raps, I've sat in, and his like writing sessions are insane because he'll write 2 to 3 songs in a session, and I'm just like baffled. I'm just sitting down, and the stuff makes sense, and like all these like things, I'm like, how words, you know what I mean? Like
some people are just like,
and it's just good, and but like other stuff to take into account, he's like, oh, okay, he reads very often, so his vocabulary is very big, and I'm like, oh, okay, these are just little things that you pick up on, and they're different, like but the more you hang out, the more you write with different people, the more you'll notice, and like, oh, like, and then you can look back and see like, oh, like where I started, where I'm here, like look at all this like difference and things like that. Like I remember when we wrote our first EP, that we actually put out, like I was just looking when I was in the studio, was probably the first time I realized like, oh, I can actually sing pretty well.
Yeah.
Because forever I was like building up to, because I was always referencing how I started, and I'm like, it wasn't good. Like I'm really honest with myself, and I'm like, it wasn't good. And
you
I'm like,
have to be honest.
where
with
I was in the
yourself
studio, I was like,
sometimes,
oh, it's actually pretty decent. Like, but I was always excited from then on. I'm like, look how better I can get if I just like keep doing it with different stuff and different people, and like trying different, genres and things like that.
I had that kind of like I had that kind of same thing with like when we first tracked Pages. I didn't feel like my vocals were like super solid.
Yeah.
So I never sang. I never really tracked on anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Before Pages?
No, yeah, I was not a
just
singer.
small little like
Whoa.
ad libs and like background and Humanica and stuff, but otherwise no.
Yeah, and it was mostly like bullshit that JoJo would tell me to do. Or somebody would joke or something. But, yeah, going from that, and then I just did a cover recently by myself, and well, like recording that, I was like, I wasn't like feeling super great about it, and then I listened to it after, and I'm like, wow, this actually is like bearable, and it's weird because
it's more than bearable. It's really good.
I love how
really
I love
good.
how, but that's how we like will talk about our own shit.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, like I was just talking, like, oh yeah, like they're pretty decent, and it's like, oh, it's bearable. Like that's the way like I'll tell it, but it also keeps me like wanting to get
Grounded.
better.
Yeah, keeps you grounded. Yeah.
Because I think if you're like, oh yeah, I'm really fucking good, then like it puts your ceiling. It's like, oh, I'm there. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to go any higher, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, it touches on 2 things. It touches on ego, which you're like, oh, I'm the shit. I can, like, this is awesome, and you can feel like that. You deserve to feel like that. It's not as if that's a forbidden feeling. You have to check yourself, because then you don't want to get arrogant, but then you also, like you said, don't want to put up this giant ceiling for you that you're constantly trying to reach. And then what if you don't always reach this imaginary ceiling that you've built up for yourself, and this like giant ego hits, you know. So you have to keep it.
You need enough ego to believe in yourself and be like, I'm fucking good. I'm gonna write this.
And I think that plays into writing too. Like you have to be able to not, even if you think something you wrote is fucking sick, like a part is really cool and you're like, this is the best thing ever. You can't get mad if somebody's like, that sounds like garbage.
You can't get married to an idea.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest things of being a musician is you have to be open to getting your idea shut down and moving on and working for what
I suck at that.
Working
like,
for
please, I like it so much.
Working for what's
I like
best
it
for the
so
song.
much.
It's hard sometimes, especially when you think like I just wrote some fire, you know, this is gonna be perfect for it, and then you're like, oh, upon a third or fourth listen, it's not as fire as I thought
And
it
it
was.
takes that, you know what I mean? But it takes you
Yeah.
having to take the time and be like, okay, let me try to see where the person who's coming from who said this. Like, there's got to be, that goes all into like, who do you have on your team? Who do you have on your writing team? Like, people who are talking shit just to talk shit, or if people are like really saying it and you're like, because it depends. Because if someone who like, I know is just like a freaking troller is like gonna like talk shit about something, I'm like, well, I'm not gonna take that serious. Like, I'm not gonna worry about it. But if it's someone like in my writing circle or someone that I trust, that I tell them like, oh, well, you know, I don't really like this part, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to legitimately take that into effect. Even if it's going to take me a while, because I'm not incredibly, especially if I'm really excited about something and someone's not as excited for it, I'm like, okay, cool.
But
like,
why?
take a step back. I was like, why? You know what I mean? And then I'll like listen, and then it'll take time to take me off of like the pedestal I put my like work on, but I'm like, let me take a step down really quick and find out what can make it better. Because all it is, that person is just saying that because they want it to be really fucking good.
Exactly.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not because like they want to shit on what you're writing. It's because they know that you're capable of doing better.
That's a good point. So you have to take your feelings out, or at least put them in the back seat, because you can't get defensive, or you know, it's because it's not a personal attack on your character or your songwriting ability. And I think people often lose sight of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we're giving you this feedback, or you're receiving this feedback for the best interest of the song.
Yeah.
You know, so that you can get better and you can figure out, okay, this is what's better for my music. You know, there's nothing to do with whatever you're doing as a person. And that's, people tend to like intermingle those two things.
Those two ideas. Yeah.
So,
And it's hard because you know what I mean. It's
like, I did it.
Yeah.
So are you? You know, like,
especially like depending on like how like you write your stuff, but that's yourself that you're putting out there, and someone's
in
saying,
musical
like,
form. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like it feels like someone's taking a jab at you, and it's like it's not. You know what I mean? Depending on the person, but
Sure.
if it's like the person that you know it has your best interest at heart, then it's like, oh, okay, it's because they want this to be better, and they know that you are capable. They wouldn't be telling you if they were just like, if they thought that was the best that you could do, they probably wouldn't say shit.
Sure.
But if they're like, I know that they can do better, or they can come up with something else, this and that, then they're probably gonna tell you and be like, oh, like work on this, because like, not because they're saying like this isn't good enough, but it's like you can do better. Like that's all it is. But that taking that out is very difficult, because especially you're saying like I'm a little stubborn ideas, but it's like, why don't you like this idea? But I've had that happen to myself a lot of times writing, where I'm like, no, the song, just finish it, it's done, like I don't want to work on it anymore. And then I'll take that step back and let like somebody else kind of like take the reins on something, and then it becomes something that I wouldn't even have thought of. And I'm like, okay, like good, I needed to be placed on that check kind of thing. Like it helped, you know what I mean? Like it helped in the end.
If you're looking at it here and someone else is looking at it from this way, you're not going to see it from the way they're looking at it, and so it helps to get that perspective.
I recently watched the documentary that Linkin Park did on Minutes to Midnight, and they had written all the vocals for all the songs when they were still recording them, and Mike and Chester let the rest of the band take all the lyrics into a room with the producers and like go over everything and just critique the hell out of it. And they were pissed. But they were like, we have to do this. Like, they spent like months and months and months on them, and they were like, they basically just gave them to the rest of the band, and they were like, okay, tell us what sucks. And it's like, that's hard to do.
That's hard. That'd be hard, especially like if you work that long on them, and you're like, in your head, you're like, I'm done. Because if someone comes back with any like sort of critique, it's like, are you telling me I have to do this like all over again? And I'm like, oh, these are good, but again, the people that they're giving them to, the other bandmates,
they gotta trust them.
They're not gonna say nothing. I mean, it's their band too. Like it's like, hey, I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna help all of us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's our interest, like at heart.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna like shit on something to shit on it. Like it's because we can do better. Like
Right.
this involves me too. Like we're gonna write something good, but that's bold as hell.
Right.
Yeah,
And see,
I
and
was
so
like,
I'm
wow.
trying to approach that sort of process with more excitement versus like reservation and like worry.
Yeah.
Because if I get worried and defensive and anxious about it, then I don't receive the feedback as well. Whereas if I'm excited about, hey, here's this idea, and I am excited about the idea, but I'm also excited for you to rip it apart because you could potentially take things out and make it better, and then it's not just a me thing anymore. And that's the cool part about it is when you're working with other people, you have to be receptive to the feedback because they're involved too.
Yeah.
And they want to be a part of it too. And so you have to take yourself out of it a little bit, to the side to let other people in. And that's their critique and that's their feedback is them being a part of it. And sometimes, you have to recognize those parts like, okay, yeah, be a part of it right there. Or, oh, okay, maybe it doesn't work as well as, and so you discuss what parts of them are they bringing to this thing that you've created to where it's not just your thing or their thing, it's a whole new thing that's a collective work.
Pages has always been like an us thing. It's
Yeah,
never
exactly.
been like
Exactly.
one
And that's
way
why
or the
it
other.
works, I think, really well, is
Yeah.
because the end project, their end result is always an us song.
Yeah.
It's never like there would be parts where I have more vocals, or there will be parts where, I'm not singing and he's playing like a lead over it for, 8 bars or something.
I am singing more now, though.
And he is singing more, and I love it. Oh, dude,
I approve that. All right.
Thanks.
He's always had a good voice, and it was just about because, like you said, this is your first vocal project where you're
Yeah.
kind of on the forefront,
Yeah.
and so you had to build that confidence, And I had already some of that from backtalking, especially because it's a very aggressive thing, and you have to present yourself in a very forward sort of image, otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And so I brought some of that to it, and then he started just coming out of his shell, and I was like, oh, dude, I don't want him to take a back seat. And that's another thing going with this new material is like he's got more of a prominent vocal role in the songs that are coming out, and it's not just okay, he writes the guitar parts and I write the vocal parts. It's like more intermingled than before.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's actually really exciting because that like I said, that's one of my favorite parts about the first project that you guys did is the back and forth singing parts that you guys did. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that you're getting to like highlight yourself a little bit more. That cover, did you put that out already, or is that
Not
something you
yet.
just have?
I need to put it out. I'll probably put it out soon, but
We're gonna listen to that after this too.
Yeah, I got you.
No, I'm excited as hell, dude. Like I've wasn't expecting a lot of. I'm expecting that you guys are writing stuff, but that's really cool. Like the dynamics changing a little bit. And the new stuff you're writing, I'm really excited to hear that stuff. Do you guys have any like estimated thing or what you like? How many songs you're trying to work on, or when you're trying to put something out by, or is it really just like working it out right now?
I think it's like 6 songs.
I think
is
it's
what
6
we
songs.
agreed
Yeah.
on.
So we're probably gonna have an EP's worth of material, but I don't know that we're necessarily gonna release another EP like we did the last time because we don't want to just drop these 6 songs and then they're dropped and we don't get as much traction on them versus if we were to release them single by single and keep a sort of momentum going. So I think that's what we're gonna do.
Singles.
Yeah,
That
just
seems to
singles.
be the way to, yeah, that seems to be the move. Especially like I think with any project like at like the local level or even like right there, it's just an easier way to stay relevant throughout the year.
Yeah.
Stay
Like,
keep people engaged.
A six song EP like will keep attention for like a month, 2 at the most here because there's so much music coming out and then like and it's harder to get traction just on your. But if you drop those 6 songs over the year, one every 2 months, and like then that whole year your name is involved into something.
That's the plan. That's what we're trying to do.
I'm thinking we'll probably do we'll release most or all of them as singles, and then by the time most or all of them are out, we'll combine them into an EP so that there's like
just
a
drum it
collective,
together.
Yeah.
We've released like 4 songs, and then or 5 songs, and we want to release the last one. We'll release it. The EP is out now with like these last 2 songs that we.
Well, that's I who did that last year? I think I think Sleep Token did that last year
They're
with
huge.
Sundowning.
They've got a really huge sound.
Where they dropped it I think they dropped the entire album as singles throughout the year, but
Yeah.
every single, so it was one every 2 weeks. So
that's
relevant
cool.
up to that, and it was I think 10, 12 songs. So yeah, by the time they dropped the last single, the entire album was out, already. But still, I think that was an idea we were trying to approach with Under Oblivion when we were still doing it. Is that the last songs that we were writing were let's just drop them as singles.
Yeah.
And go one, and it takes the pressure off trying to write an entire cohesive project together.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
and it gives you the added bonus of okay, the entire year, your name will be mentioned
Exactly.
around
and
here.
Because we're doing a full band arrangement, we don't want to just drop a full mini records worth of songs with all this new arrangement, not new sound, but expanded sound, and it gets kind of slept on, or no one really takes it seriously,
Yeah.
So we want to come out kind of with a bang, essentially, of hey, here's our new lineup, here's our expanded sound, and what we're doing, keep people engaged with that idea of us being a bigger page.
Just a lot more fleshed out than just throwing an EP out and being like,
Because
hey,
if you throw a full band song out as a single first people are being like, what? It's a full band now. I'm
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you give them a chance to not only get adjusted to the system, but get hyped for that sound.
Exactly,
You're
yeah.
that they're gonna drop more full band stuff. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep listening to this. Versus taking it all in at once and it being maybe too much and it's way different.
Exactly.
I wasn't expecting this, and then taking it all, and like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, we want our work, our music, our art to be appreciated.
Yeah.
That's and when you drop something that takes time and then you know what I mean, it fades out of whatever people are listening to quickly, and it's damn, I worked hard on this, and even if people liked it, it's still unfortunately that's the world we live in today, where so much content is out, so much music, so much stuff, that it's hard to drop one thing all together and for someone to really stick on that, unless you are a really big followed artist, and even then these people fade into that project fades into irrelevancy very quickly, even your top artists and stuff like that. An album drops and it's really hot for a while, and then it's gone.
Right.
I think the last album that was really hyped up that I was trying to see was Kanye's Donda, and I'm oh, I was really into it for a little bit, and then now I realize oh, I haven't listened to that in a while.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was a lot of anticipation for that going into it, and it's still, even an artist at that level, I'm done with it soon.
Right.
But it's so, especially with someone trying to grow something, get to appreciate each and every one of the songs you work on. Definitely, I think singles is definitely the way to go, and it seems
Yeah,
the smart,
agree.
definitely the smart.
And that way we can do more things with the singles themselves,
Right.
So it's not, say if we wanted to do a music video or have our own art for the single, we have more to show on everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because each song, while they flow together, if they were on an EP or a record, they make sense together. There are also all their own individual stories, essentially, and feels. And so we want to showcase kind of the feel for each one, so that people, like you said, can appreciate them for what they are more. Make a music video for them, or make an artwork for each single, so it showcases that story a little bit more.
You can showcase it in different mediums. You know what I mean? You take the music, you add a visual to it, which can be the artwork, an art piece, or a certain thing for it. There's so many ways to create content around it, and so many artists to help you do it. One of the ideas that I had before we dropped the REP was I wanted to make not single artwork, but an actual art piece. I was gonna get friends to help me with art piece for each of the singles, so they can even. So there's so many ideas like that that you can do once you release stuff individually, and it allows you to kind of explore that, because doing that for an entire project together, it's not only hard, but it takes a lot of money all at once, to do it for everything. So as a single, it's another financial thing that you have to take a look at. You know what I mean? Because this music stuff is a lot of money, especially if you're doing it the DIY way, which is honestly, it still saves you a ton more money than trying to do it through a label or something like that.
Management or anything like that.
It's a lot of work. And then you find people that help you do it, and you notice you're oh, I can do a lot of this myself, and you find certain people that help you do parts of it and this and that.
It's just how much work do you want to put in?
How much work you want to put in.
Versus how much money do you want to spend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ratio.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is like right now we're doing we're working on a few things for like to make Chill Sound something a little bit bigger than what it is. Not
Chill
only that
Sounds
festival,
amazing, man.
yeah.
It was big Warped Tour vibes. I
It
loved
was-
it.
Right?
It was
but
a lot of
but
fun.
also more homely, like more to the root, if that makes sense. You
Yeah.
know, because obviously Warped Tour is like this big thing, and you can often, at least for me, I went to Warped Tour for like 10 years, so you know you can often feel disconnected because everyone's kind of all going to their own thing.
Their own, yeah.
You know, because there's like 7 bands playing at one time in this giant parking lot, and then there's all these different little things going on. You know, so people will definitely get spread out. Whereas this one, it was a bit more condensed. You know, there's obviously still the vendors, and there's still, you know, like band playing outside, and then like, you know, shortly after, you know, they're not like playing over each other, but like a little bit like a tail end of this person's set, this person's playing and stuff, you know. So it allows people to actually engage with the artists that are playing still and not feeling like, okay, I need to be in 10 places at once.
That's what, that always happened at Warped Tour where you would
Yeah.
like plan on seeing everybody and being like 2 of the bands that you wanted to see are playing at the same time,
Right.
or they play right after each other, but one was on the other way, like side of like
Right,
your line,
yeah.
and it's like, and it would take
So-
forever, and you would miss stuff.
Exactly. So I like the big feel of it, but I also really just enjoyed how connected everything was.
Yeah,
For
we-
Chill
Well, it's
Sound.
like every show around here says festival on it. I've noticed, but this was like the first one that
This
actually
wasn't
felt like a
actually a
festival.
festival.
Yeah,
this
Which was
one-
cool.
This was probably, honestly, my favorite local show since I've been in Texas.
yeah.
And I've been in Texas for like a decade. And it was probably my favorite local show. It's not top 3 for sure.
It was, I don't know, it was just such a good day, and then the whole sense what you're saying, it feels like, you know, people were closer. That's the whole point of like Chill Sounds. Like the idea is to bring people together, to bring community. We want to bring next year even more different types of like crowds coming, because this was a nice one. This was a nice, like, you know, crowd that got to experience some other types of music that maybe you weren't there to see, but we want to expand that version on. Even the vendors that we're going to have out there, we want to expand that even more.
Yeah.
The type of food that we're going to have next year, the type of events that we're planning next year, like
Food truck is
everything
sick.
is going to be.
Yeah.
I know, we're like, you know, ramen like on a hot ass day, and they like, I think they sold out, like, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not gonna lie, I hit that ramen hard.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was good.
It's like ramen's good. Like,
It was really
but that's the entire point. The entire point is to just bring people together and have them feel the sense of community with
Sense of
strangers. You know
community.
what I mean?
That's
Like,
what I was thinking,
because
yeah.
there's a bunch of people that you probably didn't know out there, but you all were there for one thing. You know what I mean? To enjoy art. You know, in whatever form it took, whether that was music, you know, our actual artwork that they were selling out there, or like, you know, food. Like, it was all just enjoying art together.
Yeah.
And I feel like most people left that day with that sense. And it was
Yeah.
like, this was a great day. Like, this was a
Yeah.
fun time, and that's what we want to keep growing. That's why the whole point of this podcast is that's why we decided to keep it going.
Yeah.
And it's like, we want to be able to just highlight people around, you know, the area, because our local area is DFW, and it's huge and it's full of talent, like
I
beyond
agree.
like my.
There's so many talented people.
There's so much stuff around here, and I'm like, we should be able to use that same sense that we threw the festival with, that sense of community, like, and bring it to
Keep
like,
it going.
yeah, keep
Highlight
it going,
it,
like,
yeah.
highlight people that you wouldn't normally be able to hear. Like, I mean, where else are you gonna hear, like, you know, all this information about, like, you know, that I just heard, you know, about, you know, Paige Turn, like, what I mentioned, like, in a few other podcasts, like, at a show, we get to talk to you maybe like 10, 15 minutes, like, oh, we're working on a project. I would have got a little bit of it, but
Right.
I mean, now people can actually like sit down and like listen to it and like see you guys, and also like put your personalities to like a face, even if
Yeah.
people just know you by like your music.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, they get to know you, and then it just allows people to feel that type of connection with like artists like around here. That I feel
agree,
like
yeah.
it helps out, and it helps bring more people out to like want to see you and listen to you live and meet you and this and that and be able to talk to you. But this has definitely like been so fun to do.
Right.
And I'm so happy that I get a chance to like do it. And again, like, thank you guys for stopping by. I really
dude.
enjoyed that.
Of course, dude. Thank you for having
If
me.
these wouldn't die at an hour, we would probably keep talking.
Yeah.
but yeah, they're about to. But again, no, definitely keep an eye out for Paige's Turn and Back Talk to
Thank
got
you.
got a twofer. Got a
You did
twofer
get
in
a
here.
little twofer.
Yeah.
All their stuff will be linked at the bottom, and if there's anything you guys want to plug in, talk about, then you're good.
Thank you for watching, listening. Where pages turned and semi back talk and
Pages talk.
pages talk. But yeah, no, we really appreciate you guys listening, tuning in. Please support OC and Daniel for everything that they're doing with Chill Sounds. Pay attention because it's really great that what they're doing for the scene and they're keeping it alive, and I love that. So
We'll be there next year.
yes.
And with
thanks
that,
for having us.
pages turn.
Thank you,
Dope.
man.
We'll see you guys next time. All right?
Later, guys.